Okay, welcome to the June 13th board meeting. Call to order, please.
Mr. Sturgill.
Here.
Ms. Nazario.
Here.
Mr. Ballard.
Here.
Ms. Washington.
Here.
Mr. Ferguson.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recognition of visitors.
Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? We are missing one of our visitors, so I'm going to skip ahead.
We think she's coming, correct?
I believe she is.
You want to
Yes.
just suspend the order and come back to this? Is that okay? Or do it during my section?
I think that's a good plan.
That's a good plan.
Okay. Could I have a motion to suspend the order?
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Okay. First hearing of the public.
Bambi's not here.
Bambi's not here. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Any old business?
Do we have any updates? Somebody asked if any of the work will be started on the George Daniel Field project.
We're waiting. Mary's out. As soon as she comes back, we'll get an update from her. She's supposed to be here to do an update tonight, but she couldn't make it.
Here's the public.
Sorry, the public's late.
Okay, report and recommendations of the treasurer.
I have the forecast presentation.
Okay.
As we walk through the May forecast, please keep in mind that the main purpose of this forecast is to update the current fiscal year's actual spending amounts compared to November's projections. This means that the updates in this forecast are solely based on the updates from the 2021-2022 school year. This forecast does not include upcoming changes for the following school year, such as the decrease in paraprofessional positions, the anticipated decrease in transportation costs beginning in school year 22-23, or additional general fund expenses that can be paid for by ESSER funds. These updates, along with many others, will be included in the next November forecast. Keep in mind that we are still in unprecedented times with the current pandemic and how it relates to our district spending. Our numbers will continue to fluctuate by the time we get to the next November forecast. First, we'll take a look at a simplified version of the updated forecast. In this simplified version, it's showing the district's beginning cash balance for each year of the forecast, revenues, expenses, surplus or deficit spending status, and ending cash balance. At the time of May's forecast submission, the district was able to project an operating surplus of almost $550,000 for fiscal year 22. This increases the ending cash balance to just over $26 million for the fiscal year 22 school year. Deficit spending is still projected for future years, but at a slower pace than originally anticipated back in November. Based on this update, we are still anticipating a negative cash balance by the end of fiscal year 2026. The district's ending cash balance in fiscal year 26 is projected to be a negative of $4.78 million rather than a negative $7.29 million. This is a $2.5 million difference. Overall, the total revenue for fiscal year 22 was $1.3 million, or 1.43% lower than projected in November. The total property tax revenue category was $330,000 higher than projected. The all other revenue category actuals were about $235,000 higher than anticipated. But at the same time, the state aid category decreased by almost $2 million. This is due to our updated enrollment numbers. In November, the district projected an enrollment of just under 6,000 students. We have updated that number to just over 5,600 students. These changes are compounded through the life of the current forecast. Total expenses for fiscal year 22 were $2.8 million, or almost 3% less than projected back in November. Salaries and benefits were $2 million lower than anticipated. This was mostly due to having numerous vacant and unfilled positions throughout the 21-22 school year. We were also able to cover the cost of some positions within ESSER funds rather than within the general fund. Purchased services, supplies, and materials were $975,000 lower than anticipated, also because of the use of available ESSER funds. We did have a $315,000 increase to capital outlay, mostly due to replacement vehicle purchases for operations. These changes are also compounded throughout the life of the current forecast. Next, we'll look at an update on ESSER spending. As a reminder, our district is eligible to receive a total of just under $58 million from 3 rounds of ESSER allocations. We do not anticipate additional federal funding. Due to the restrictive nature of the funds, this money is not a guarantee, and we cannot just put all of those funds into the general fund. Each dollar must be approved by the state prior to its use, based on rules and guidelines set by the federal and state governments. ESSER funds are intended to help school districts safely reopen schools, measure and effectively address significant learning loss, and take other actions to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the students and families who depend on our K-12 schools. We also have to follow maintenance of effort and maintenance of equity guidelines when utilizing ESSER funds. This requires us to spend at least the same amount or more of state and local general funds from year to year. If this doesn't happen, a portion of Title, IDEA, and ESSER funds would have to be returned to the state. We used all of the ESSER 1 allocation to help us cover our losses in revenue, as well as pay for additional costs due to the pandemic. Examples of these costs include materials and postage for curriculum mailed to students during the shutdown, additional cleaning supplies and equipment, PPE such as masks, and technology for students and staff to be able to work and learn remotely. This portion of funding must be used by September 23. We're using ESSER 2 to bridge the gaps between the original needs caused by the pandemic and the beginning stages of the plan to address continuity of academic and non-academic services. This portion of funding must also be used by September 23. For ESSER 3, our focus here is the continuity plan. This portion of funding must be used by September 24. At this point, we have about $40 million in ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds left to spend for fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24. We plan to spend about $8.5 million on programs and services. This includes recovery learning programs, the arts expansion, after-school programming, Chromebooks and MacBooks, Mercy Clinic medical vans, cleaning supplies, and PPE. We plan to spend about $11.5 million on staff. This includes elementary school counselors, wellness coaches, behavior specialists, additional fine arts teachers, class coverage, and additional substitute costs. We plan to spend about $20 million on construction projects. This includes roofing projects, stadium upgrades, and the potential partnership to provide free citywide internet, helping to resolve accessibility inequities that have plagued our community for decades. This concludes the May 2022 update presentation.
Any questions?
Just a comment to you, I thought we saw a very thorough presentation from you and Rachel the other day. And I think it's really important that everyone understand that the ESSER money is not just do with what you will. And how does that process, could you explain that process for everyone, please?
Well, first, when we put our plans together, obviously as a team, we submit those plans to ODE for approval, and ODE will look at each line item and approve them before we can actually draw down those funds.
Okay. I think that's just really important that that gets out there for the public.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I know the answer to this, but I kind of want to ask again. The ESSER funds are not in here.
No, we are not allowed to show the ESSER funds as revenue in our forecast. If we do use ESSER funds, we have to show it as a decrease in our expenses.
Okay, so is there still a possibility that this 2026 deficit could be pushed out?
Yes.
Because, so there is a possibility
It
of
is a
that.
possibility.
That was what I wanted to know. Okay. I'm good.
All right, well, if there are no other questions, then I have items 8.01 and 8.02 for approval.
So moved.
Support. Roll call?
Ms. Washington,
Yes.
Mr. Ballard,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Ms. Nazario,
Yes.
and Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Okay. Report recommendations of the CEO personnel matters.
Alrighty, actually, I'd like to invite Lisa back up again so we can celebrate the accomplishments of a couple of our phenomenal athletes.
How are we doing this evening? Okay. We've had two of our athletes who had a really great showing this year in track and field. So we can have Nakia and Simone come this way for me so that they can meet you as I'm speaking about you. I will start with Nakia. This is Nakia Harmon, everyone, and she was at the Ohio High School sports. I apologize for my lack of sports knowledge. She was at the state tournament, and she ran her second fastest time at 11.99 seconds, and she finished 7th to earn all Ohio honors. So.
Nice.
She actually had a really phenomenal year because she was crowned the 100-meter champion at the LCCAA Invitational, East Lake North Invitational, Vermilion Invitational, Lake Erie League, and the Amherst District and the Findlay Regional. So she had a really great year. And she is just a junior, so we will have her next year, and she will definitely be running well on the track.
And if you could look at the times that are up there and how she increased every time, but for those of you who don't know much about sprints, to drop as much as she did, a couple tenths of a second, is enormous. So fantastic job. It's
And Simone. Simone is our freshman, and she's in a discus event, and she opened with a throw of over 40 feet when she went to the championships, and it resulted in a foot foul, but she was able to come back for a few more attempts, and while she didn't make it to the championship, she did finish her season with the 11th best thrower in the state of Ohio, and she's a top-ranked freshman. So she's had a wonderful year as a freshman, so you can just imagine what she's going to do for us for the next 3 years.
nice.
And in her record, she bested her personal best 7 times. So each time she would come to a track and field event, she would get better and better and better. So this will be a phenomenal student to watch.
The opportunity to pass out some awards.
I don't want to mess up your name. Well, I did watch you on the internet. Actually, I watched both of you, and when I found out you were a freshman, I was just amazed. You know, I thought you were a senior, so you're coming back too, right? Oh, that's great.
Fun stuff. We have 2 participation awards for participating in the state meet. And some guys, all Ohio. All state track and field as a junior.
Yeah, I think
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're really proud of you guys.
Rumor has it that they're really good
Could I ask one
students, too,
question?
right?
Simone, was this the
Right?
first year you've ever actually thrown the shot in the disc?
The story I was told was 3 months beforehand is when you picked one up, right? It's,
Yeah.
And for the people who don't understand, the goal is to generate a lot of speed and get your entire body to work in one direction. So it's truly an art. So it's not something you just go out there and make up and do well. So a lot of work or a lot of natural ability, but either way, very impressive. And thanks for coming today. Help us clap for you.
I have to say something about Miss Nakia and Miss Simone. They are amazing young ladies. Miss Nakia is amazing at volleyball and basketball as well, and Simone also plays basketball. They are just a delight. They are good teammates. They are, helping the coaches. They are picking up their friends and their teammates, and just great young ladies. And they're over there laughing. But I love to cheer them on and have my clappers. They always come up to me and say hello and give me a big hug or a big smile. And they're just a delight and just another example of the great kids we have here at Lorain High. And I love to see you ladies. I miss you.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, I would like the board to consider for approval items 9.01 to 9.10.
Question. Am I able to vote on that because of 9.05 and my wife being
Did I
on
miss
there?
one?
My wife is on there.
Yes, but I'll pull out 9.05. Thank you. I'd like to recommend for approval 9.05, approval of personnel matters.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Pass.
Thank you for pointing that out. I'd like the board to consider for approval items 9.01 to 9.04 and 9.06 to 9.10 in personnel matters.
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
I'd like the board to consider for approval items 10.01 to 10.13 operation matters.
So moved.
Support. Roll call?
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Real
That's
quick,
all I have this
Did we
evening.
skip one?
Sure.
Did you do a 9.5 to 9.7 or something?
I had him pull
I pulled
9.05.
9.05 out first, and then I did the
We
other.
pulled it, okay.
Yeah,
because
But
my
everything
wife
got
is on
covered.
there.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. President, that's all I got for you.
Okay. Any new business? Committee reports, requests from board members. Any requests? Second hearing of the public.
Public?
Okay.
We do miss you.
We're going to, the next board meeting will be June 27th, right here at 5 o'clock. And we need a motion to go into executive session for D, and C.
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mrs. Zario.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Question, will we be voting on anything when we come out?
No. No actions afterwards, that's correct.
Public?
Broke it.